From Lewis in the Black Horse Pub. Well, old Genery is getting in the way, and we mustn't let him do that. No, that's not it. He must be up here. He's lurking up here somewhere. No, he's not even lurking there. I'm having some problems getting rid of this cover this morning. I don't know why. It's much better that I have that sort of problem than this. I think I know. Having some problems putting me over the top, so I'm going to peer around the side, because Genery is the next star up. That is Genery, so Genery of Southover, who stands proudly in Priory Park, and very pertinent he is to the chat that we had this morning with the two Bs, because we were talking about constitutional monarchy, democracy, and of course it was the issue of constitutional monarchy that the Battle of Lewis was fought for in 1236. Is that right? Yes, it was 1236. So it is very appropriate. What we're going to do is we delve into our archives from time to time, and we've got considerable that we built up, some worthwhile, some not. We're going to delve into our archives just for the next 20 minutes and let you see the first episode of our, I want to say award-winning. We never actually received a cup in our hands, but some 2.5 million people gave us a thumbs up when it was first shown a few years ago. And many of you have not seen it. We know because we talked to you. So here is the bloody past of a tiny town. And well worthwhile, I think, taking a look.
I'm Keith Hayes, and you'll be sick and tired of my face by the time this series ends, but I hope you'll bear with me as I shuffle through the streets of this lovely town, pop in and out of its pubs, and tell you a story of its bloody past. In Saxon times, it was known as Lewes. The modern term for toilet might have come from it, I suppose. But the town became respectable and is now known as Lewis. Lewis, not Lewes. But its original name does come from Saxon times. And this pretty little town in East Sussex, nicely tucked under the shelter of the South Downs, has had this high street for longer than written records go back. Pretty normal sort of UK high street, really. Typical shops and stores each side of it. Looks just like High Street UK. High Street UK, from John O'Groats to Land's End, have all got a history. But this little stretch of road has a violent and bloody history. And that history reflects much of the history of the country itself. A pint pulled from a tap is the tipple of most Englishmen, I suspect. They sure tippled in Lewes in the past. This pub goes back to 1742. There's a list of the landlords to prove it. Today, sitting on the high street, it's one of the 16 pubs in a town of 16,000. 150 years ago, there were 63 pubs in Lewes and 18 breweries. And in those days, there were only 9,000 people.
Wow, what a tall tale. Yes, but true. And over the next few programmes,
I'm going to take a closer look at some of the bloodier and more sensational events that have occurred on this seemingly normal high street. But right now, I'm just going to paint a general picture of this tiny English town, before I get to the bloody and the exotic. The high street is dominated by a Norman castle. One of the oldest Norman castles in the country. It was built not long after the invasion of 1066. It housed the Norman garrison, who ensured the people living inside its walls were kept safe. Indeed, Lewes was a walled town, and there is brick-by-brick evidence of the 4 gates that gave entry to the town.
By the way, Lewes isn't a corruption of Lou. It's the Saxon word for a hill. And if you thought that Lewes had lots of pubs, it has far more hilly roads. Far more even than the rest of the country, I think.
The modern-day Lewes is well used by its people. Lots of shops, markets, and even tea rooms. It also has a lot of parades. At the end of the school year, a ceremony takes place called patina. All year long, pupils design and build exotic costumes ready to parade down the high street.
Raphael, I walked onto the high street in Lewes a couple of years ago to be greeted with a lot of children running around in funny costumes. What on earth is that all about?
It's called Moving on Parade, and it's something we started 16 years ago. It started from a wish of parents to bring more art into schools because they see how much schools struggle demands of the government, and they wanted to support the school in that. So we started something called Patina, which is Parents and Teachers in the Arts.
Right.
Moving on Parade celebrates the transition for primary to secondary education of all the children in Lewes District Council.
Very colourful costumes. How do you decide what the costumes are? You're the artistic director, so you better give me a good answer on this.
So every year we have a theme. And the theme this year is Wonders of Our World. Last year we asked the community to suggest different artists that they would like to see on the parade, and loads of suggestions came in. And we shortlisted the huge list into 16 schools, which was the amount of schools that took part last year. We had Frida Kahlo, and we had Picasso, and we had Van Gogh, and we have Giacometti, and we had Andy Warhol. So they doing illustrations and designs, and then the patina artists take all the children's idea and adapt it into a practical design that the children are actually able to days. We invite about 8 or 10 people from every school to come and learn the skills of the carnival costume, and they start to make the big make that the school going to carry. And after that, the patina artists going into the school and work with the children on their individual costumes. We're trying to really do it as an enjoyment, getting people together. They're all gonna meet in their secondary school later on. We're trying that they'll meet each other beforehand as well. So we're doing events all year round for the benefit of the whole community, not just for the year sixes.
You do other things. You said you go to the schools. What do you do in the schools?
So our next event is on the 22nd of April. It's called Dance Your Socks Off. And because the theme this year is Wonders of Our World, we thought it'll be really fun to have an evening of teaching flamenco, bhangra, and the sirtaki with world food. We're going to have sushi, we're going to have international cocktails, we're going to have professional dance scholars who are going to teach the dance, and it's going to be a really fun event, and that's for children as well.
See, cocktails. I told you Lewis is a drinking town.
Yeah, we're pretty good at cocktails. Growing every year. So we're making contact with our twin towns. We're making contact with Louis in America. There's a group of them, artists from Louis in America, coming to Louis in June. We made contact with them. And what we would really like is to use this format in other places, because Louis is the only place that we know of who celebrates their moving on from primary to secondary schools, and it's people that hear about it, they are impressed, and it will be really nice for other people, other children in other communities to do the same.
Yeah, I did realise it was unique to Lewis and a very unusual operation. Well, how do the children react to it? I mean, generally speaking, do you get great support from the kids?
Yes, we do, and because it's been going for so many years, it becomes a part of the cultural calendar of the town. So young children know that when they get to year 6, they'll do the moving on parade, and all the siblings did it, and they've seen the rest of the older ones doing it. So it's kind of something that they look forward to.
I'm known for wearing strange costumes. As you can see, my hats are still there in this episode. So I don't think I should be marching, but I most certainly will come to the cocktails.
Great.
Raffaella, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
The adults have their turn, and on November 5th, the biggest Guy Fawkes celebration anywhere in the world takes place. Exotic costumes, burning crosses, effigies stuffed with fireworks. Rousers, that is a banger to you and I, are tossed casually into the street. And almost every citizen of the town, old and young, takes part. There's a bit more to the bonfire celebration, though, than just the gunpowder plot. In 1553, Queen Mary was determined to bring Roman Catholicism back to England. Right here on the High Street, she burned 17 people at the stake who wouldn't convert. The dungeon, where they were held before being so horribly slaughtered, is still here, up these steps, being the last walk the condemned men would take. It was a horrible death. They were put into tar barrels, which were then set alight. Pretty bloody stuff. But we'll leave the High Street for a few minutes. Then we'll bring you more gore, blood and guts.
Can't hear you, Keith. I can't hear you. So let me try again. I'm going to try again.
Once in a while, these things do go wrong. It's just the slightest little shiver can change things. They are very sensitive, but since they do such a wonderful job, we're not likely to argue with them too much. Now we got her, and it was my fault. I think that we could not hear. So I hope that she gets back again. I can. What I can do is. I think. I can probably send this again and hope that she can pick it up. There we go. There we are. Now, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you so loudly. My ears are blasting.
Oh, dear. Well, I'll sit back. And actually, I was sitting back because it is a beautiful sunny day here. And it's
Very
likely
good.
to last for the whole day. So I'm going to get
Very
a tan
nice.
before the end of the program.
So how's the weather there?
Just absolutely glorious. But it is up and down. Tomorrow is going to be cold and wet. The day after is going to be sunny and nice. The day after is going to be cold and wet. I'm afraid that we've reverted back to the old type of autumn, which whenever we wanted to go to the beach and have cucumber sandwiches, it always rained.
Well, I'll be there soon, so I'm just trying to figure out what I need to wear. Yeah, you know, it's funny. It's like all the problems of the world, and I'm sitting here swirling and spiraling downward about what kind of a bag I should use.
Well, believe me, it's better to focus on the bag than focus on the bad news, because there is very little good news. And in fact, the two boys were on this morning, the two barristers, and they are somewhat worried that we could, with this latest move by Rishi Sunak to overturn the Supreme Court, face a constitutional conference. Constitutional crisis, which we haven't suffered for about 30 or 40 years. Times are worrying, my dear. Times are worrying.
So what exactly is the issue? I apologize for not following it.
Well,
I've been so worried about my bag, you know.
Well, essentially, to put it in a nutshell, is the government came up with the plan to ship illegal immigrants to Rwanda to internment camps there or some form of confinement. It has been since very controversial, of course, but also ruled illegal. And the other day, the Supreme Court confirmed its illegality. But the Prime Minister has said, to hell with the Supreme Court, I'm going to twist the legislation around to make it legal. Well, of course, he can, in theory, do that, but it would be constitutionally very, very difficult to implement if he did. And so we're facing, unless he backs down, we're facing a constitutional crisis.
Wow. So what's the answer?
The answer is that one side or the other to relent. But as the boys said,
what do you do with them, with the migrants? Where do you put them?
If you relent, if you don't let them ashore, what you have to do is to carry on with a policy that has proved futile, and that is try to stop them on the beaches, pay inordinate amounts to France to stop them, which they've signally failed to do, and the problem will not go away.
can't send them to Australia anymore.
Now,
I mean, I just, where are they coming from, and why are they not in their own countries trying to fix their own countries?
well, I think the short answer is, in theory, it's hunger. They are mostly from North Africa, which is experiencing, high degrees of drought, and people who are nomadic, and move from place to place. And when they get there, they find the wells have dried up and that sort of thing.
Right.
Now,
So they're coming to Britain to get free food and
well,
free services.
yes, except they can't get it anywhere else, because everybody else is sensible enough not to give it to them.
Right.
So there is a nub there, but you'll appreciate the difficulty of that. Of course, is that there is a big swathe, probably of Americans as well, who say, "Oh, the poor darlings! Oh gosh, we've got to look after these people. They're hard done by." Is that a tiger on your shoulder?
A tiger?
Yes. Oh no, it's a shadow.
The shadow. I mean, the tiger is, well, what do we call him? A black panther is lurking around. No, actually, he's sleeping. Wow. Yeah.
Right. So it's one of those things where, I mean, one of the big problems, I suppose, that every politician is far more sensitive to than we are, is that, particularly coming up to an election, is they like to think that they're doing the will of the people, so that the little ballots will slip through the box in their favour. So that has a high element of influence on what's going on. I mean, the Conservatives are looking very, very vulnerable at the moment, and so they should. They have not been a strong government. They have not been a good government ever since they got rid of Boris. And even then, in fairness to those who followed, I have to say nobody knew whether Boris was going to be a good one or not. He was certainly strong. Whether he was a good president, one doesn't know.
Right.
And what's the state of your presidency?
He needs to wake up. He's been sleeping for 3 years. I just, I don't know. I don't know what's worse. I really, honestly, I don't have answers. I know that we have a lot of crazy protests going on, and they're not peaceful. The pro-Palestinian protesters have been, I mean, perhaps there are some peaceful ones there, but overall, they've always gotten into scuffles and fights and breaking windows at Grand Central Station and pushing and spitting on police officers and pushing them around. I got shoved when I was there. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What you think this is going to build your cause? It's just showing that you're violent.
Indeed.
I mean, I don't understand what they're thinking. They're not thinking. That's the problem, is they're not thinking. They're not thinking things through, which oftentimes we humans don't do. Yeah. Especially when I bought this bag that I don't know why I bought. It's a very pretty bag, but I don't know why I bought it. Anyway, so enough with the bag. Whenever I get stressed, I just go, I talk about the bag because I think it's more of a fixable problem. But I don't know what the answers are. I know that we have a big migrant crisis in New York City. Here's the problem. It's nice to be nice. It is. But what are you going to do? You're going to bring millions of migrants to New York City while all the billionaires leave, okay? And you have no tax base. What are you going to do? What's your city going to look like?
Yeah.
What's your city going to look like? It just can't sustain itself.
Yeah.
Because you need the tax money. How much tax money are you going to get from somebody who's a delivery person?
Let me ask you the same question. Where are your migrants coming from?
They're coming from, I mean, they're not starving like your migrants. They're coming from, they all have iPhones and Hoka's sneakers. Are you serious? Yeah. I don't even have those things. So, the babies have the iPad standing. So New Yorkers are getting upset, and rightly so, because, the main area in Grand Central is just, they're teeming with migrants. They've got a hotel that they've taken, and have housed them at a hotel right near Park Avenue. Are you serious? That's a very posh area. And so there was one incident where they were being shipped out to a tent city in Brooklyn, I believe, which is away from Midtown, certainly, and they complained. They complained. You're complaining?
Yes, we had similar things. Yeah.
Are you serious? You're complaining? Listen, it's not. They've been given this idea of the American dream, where they're going to come over and they're going to be taken care of, and they're going to have this and that and that and this. It's not that easy, guys. And they're starting to realize it. And now we're getting into winter. A lot of them are coming from warm climates. It is going to be freezing in these cities where they're now being, where our sanctuary cities, with New York and Chicago, it's going to be freezing. And so a lot of them are going back because it's too cold.
Yes.
If
Now, we automatically think of Mexico as being the source of these people. What is the truth of the matter?
No, I mean, they're coming through Mexico. And it's not Mexicans, it's Venezuelans, maybe Guatemalans, Ecuadorians, and maybe other countries, a mix of other countries, but it started with Venezuelans. And a lot of them are being deported back because we have a deal with the Venezuelan government that they would take them back. But they have to realize that they're not going to come here and just get everything for free. I don't get everything for free. I was born here. I'm a citizen. I don't get everything for free. I have to go out and schlep out there to work every day. I don't get to live at Park Avenue. I don't get to live right next to where I work.
Have you picked up on what Jeremy Hunter said in the last 24 hours?
No.
Well, he hasn't focused necessarily on immigrants, but those people who will not look for work are going to be denied their NHS rights, in other words, their hospital and medicine rights, and one or two other benefits that they presently receive, not least of which is an allowance for heating during the current war crisis. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes down.
Right. So there's citizens being denied NHS?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very
maybe I understand more like welfare, housing, things of that nature, but NHS? Well, everybody in your country should have health care, no?
Well, everybody does have health care, and what
regardless of, regardless of whether you're making money or not.
Yeah, but it's not. It's quite specific. Is that there is a system for them to go and look for work. I mean, it exists at the moment. But what happens is that supposing that you decide to employ me, or you've got a job, I come to you and I say, hello, I love that job. And you interview me and I go away and you never see me again. And I go back to the office and say, I applied for the job. And they nod you through. I think and I only think because it's been announced in the last 24 hours, really, I only think is that they're now going to say is, well, go back and try again and try again and try again until you actually get a job, because there are hundreds of thousands of jobs going vacant in the country, and we're not going to allow you to have medical care unless you get a job. Now, immediately I can see what springs into your mind is that's very difficult to carry out, isn't it?
Well, let me ask you a question. How much money are you bringing in? Are you working?
Me?
Yeah.
Certainly not.
But that's what I'm saying to you is that do you see what I'm saying? That you should still have health care.
Yes. But the point really is that I will take any job that's offered to me. The fact that
but if the country's teeming with jobs and you're not getting a job, it's the same thing.
Not quite, Melissa, because is anybody who gets a job pays taxes. I pay taxes whether I get a job or not. I mean, in other words,
everybody pays taxes when they buy something. It's called a sales tax.
Yeah, no, I pay an income tax. I even pay tax on my pension.
Well, everybody pays tax on their pension. Well, I won't pay tax on my pension, but we'll talk about that strategy later. Yeah.
Now, somebody who does not work at all and won't work doesn't pay a tax. I mean,
they pay sales tax. They pay sales tax when they go out and buy something.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, but let's.
But when you're older, right?
Yes.
And maybe you're just living off of the government at that point because everybody gets a little national pension, right? Maybe you weren't able to save any money because the job you did have wasn't paying anything. So what happens to those folks who basically are just collecting off of the national pension?
They actually learn to live on their pension.
Right.
I mean,
should they not receive
the
health
government
care?
quite clearly says this is the money you're going to get. If we can help you with budgeting, we will. But they don't make any rebate.
Right. So
not that I'm aware. Anyway, I haven't received one.
Shouldn't those folks receive health care?
Well, I mean, that really is the detail. But if you are of pensionable age, you're not expected to apply for a job. If you're not, you are.
Why not? Why not?
Well, you can. There's nothing to stop you, but you don't have to.
Why not?
Well, do people of pensionable age in your country have to go work, continue to work?
If they don't have money.
Yeah, well, you see that's the difference in cultures. That would be considered to be, to some extent, slave labor. Is that you're forcing people? I mean, they raised the income tax level for a lady from 65 to 67. They don't get one yet. My God, I'll tell you, you should have seen the uproar and the row that transcended. I mean,
well, I think we can get and with us, if you haven't worked a certain amount of time, you don't get a national pension. You don't get Social Security.
You're right.
I don't know whether healthcare you'll get at 65, but not before 65.
Yeah, okay, not too much difference.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get free healthcare. I mean, the fallacy.
We don't get it. We don't get anything unless we are employed, or we pay for it ourselves.
Yes. Well, it's the idea of free healthcare in Britain is actually fallacious.
It's not free. Nothing's free.
There's nothing free. And actually, the whole idea of coming to Britain for free stuff is only if the administration can't keep up with you, because you're presented with a bill. Even if you fall down in the street and break your wrist, you're presented with a bill.
If you don't, if you're not on the NHS,
sorry?
Right. So I'm saying is you have to pay taxes in order to get these things, but we don't have where if you're 65 or older, you're okay. But if you're younger than 65, like if I decided to retire now and I'm 60, I wouldn't have health care. I'd have to pay for it myself.
Yeah, very similar. We're not too different at all. It's 65. Actually, I think, as I say, with ladies now, the magic age is 67.
So people under 65 in your country don't get health care?
No, they do get health care.
But we don't. We don't.
Yeah. But they don't get it for free. I mean, for instance, if you want an aspirin, you don't march into the chemist or the drugstore and say, "Give me some aspirin." You pay for it.
I understand that. Of course. I mean, but here, let's say that you had cancer and you were 60, and you didn't have a job. You'd have to pay $1 million.
No, that is a very big difference. We don't pay.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So I understand.
In fact,
I can understand.
I remember with some forgive me if my memory goes, because as you know, a lot passes before us. But didn't Obama try to introduce something like that?
He did, but it's very expensive. It's not. I mean, you have to pay. I'm just thinking probably a couple of $1,000 a month for insurance. What's the point?
He didn't offer some sort of health care.
Yeah. So normally, what you would pay would be much more. This is just insurance. It's not even paying for healthcare. Right. In just insurance premiums, and I remember quoting from my son, it was $2,000 a month, and he was 18, and $2,000 a month I'm going to pay in insurance premiums. That doesn't include any co-pays or anything extra that isn't covered.
Right. Yeah.
It's absurd. It's absurd.
I think actually, as my memory recollects that in 50 years they haven't changed the legislation. Is Canada had quite a good system where it was 50-50. You paid a certain amount and off your pay, and then a certain amount with your checkbook.
Yeah, we have, if you're employed, now we do have something called Medicaid for the very poor, but your assets have to be lower than $10,000. You can't have anything else. So yeah, we have it for the very poor and for the older folks, 65 and older. And but the middle ground, there's something Obama had put forth, but it's to help a little bit with your private insurance.
Yeah. I think they call it here needs assessment. Somebody assesses whether in fact you can afford it or not.
Right, exactly. That's the needs assessment. But I think that the thing is, with you all have the NHS, but you also have a very different tax structure. So, for example, like our corporations, like they only pay maybe 20% or less in taxes, a corporation. Whereas, or even somebody like me, it would be something like that along those lines. I pay the same rate as a corporation, which makes no sense. But anyway, whereas you all, and correct me if I'm wrong because I don't know much about your tax structure, but what I did hear was anything over, I think it was 60,000 pounds. It's the tax rate is 47%.
Yeah, well, it's 40% anyway. Yeah,
that would be a very huge disincentive to work. Huge, right? Because you'd be like, all right, well, let me just work just under that threshold, right? Just under 60,000. So there's no incentive to become a wealthy person.
Yes. The only thing is that Margaret Thatcher's view was very much that if you the lower the tax, the more buoyant your economy became. I'm not an economist. I'm not going to get into the fight about whether that's true or not, but I know that is a political viewpoint.
I mean, it does impact somebody's choice of employment, because maybe you don't want to make 100,000 pounds a year, because that $40,000 difference is going to be taxed tremendously. Why should I bother, right? That's what someone's going to think in their mind. Let me stay just low.
Below it, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Which is not a wealth mindset. It isn't. Here, people want to make, 200,000, 500,000, a million, right? But a millionaire is not going to be even taxed at 47%.
Yeah.
I think our top tax bracket for a billionaire is 37%. So, I mean, that's still a lot if you're a billionaire, but
as long as you keep a fair chunk of it.
Yeah. And it's for the NHS, and the NHS is a great system. It's great to have everybody taken care of. So there's a lot to be said for that. But I don't understand. I don't quite understand.
The more you opt to go private, as they would say. I mean, one of the drawbacks for the NHS is that you get in line.
Right.
Whereas you might well be used to being rushed into hospital, we will be rushed into hospital about 6 months from now.
We if it's life threatening, you'll get pretty good care. It might take me, I don't know, to get a dentist appointment 3 months.
Yeah.
So there are the problems. So yeah, we have our problems too, where it would take a long time.
Yes.
So yeah.
Now let's switch for a moment because I'm not sure that everybody, including myself, understands exactly what's happening to President Trump or ex-President Trump at the moment. Where does he stand? He's in court, I know, but where is that court case?
I think they're in the middle of testimony. Which court case are you referring to?
Yeah, well, the one where he pulled the face the other day.
Which one are you talking about? Oh, the one in New York, about lying on certain documents, inflating the value of the building or deflating it, depending on what was. Listen, this is what real estate moguls do in New York. If you're a real estate mogul in New York, this is what you do. And the banks are more than happy to give you a loan and you know, gain the interest from the loan. So I just don't know. It's not an incredibly horrible thing that you did. You know what I'm saying? You didn't molest somebody, you didn't kill somebody. It's just these little teeny things they're trying to, I gotcha, you know?
Right, yeah.
And I'm not even sure they're going to get them.
Now, where does he stand in his race for president? Because it's next year, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the problem is that the Democrats are really imploding on themselves. You know, I don't know. The migrant crisis, they have not handled it well. They've really just done nothing. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, maybe we should do something. It's such a mess, disorganized. There's just, sure, everybody come on over. No problem. What? So who's going to pay for all that? We're broke. I mean, we're absolutely broke. We keep, raising the debt ceiling. We are in so much financial trouble. So they have not done well in that. I don't know how they're doing with Israel. I know the Democrats are very split on the issue, like, extreme sides. I don't know. I don't know how he's going to. And then, of course,
the Hamas-Israeli conflict does seem like Brexit to have raised very extreme emotions.
Yes. Yeah, there's certain topics that really raise emotions pretty high. And then, of course, we've got the meeting with China. You know, I'm so happy that China is going to give us more pandas. Yay. In exchange for Taiwan. Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Didn't Biden kiss and make up with Xi Jinping?
I don't know if you could ever do that, really. It's almost like my son was likening it to the Munich Agreement back in 1938. I mean, well, I don't know. It's like I said, we're going to give you more pandas, but we're going to take Taiwan. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so foolish.
They'll know it in this country as the panda crossing, I'm sure.
I just can't. It's panda diplomacy. It's so crazy. So
I think we can sum up by saying that your country is as big a mess as ours.
Oh, for sure. Well, we're even bigger.
Melissa, this is Michael.
Good morning.
Good morning, Michael.
Is one of the team that look after me here absolutely magnificently. This is Melissa, who's sitting comfortably in New York, having a chat and telling us how bad things are there. We should stay here.
Okay.
Nice to meet you, Michael. So yeah, it's such an adventure. I got to tell you, I just you never know what you're going to get. I walk out into the city every day, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to get.
Well, I think that it's to be quite honest with you, opening up newspapers, which I do obviously at about I don't. I look at them on screen at about 6 o'clock in the morning. I wonder what's in it today. The only thing that is, you can almost sometimes say on a Tuesday it's going to be the same as last Tuesday, and on a Thursday it's going to be the same as last Thursday. All sorts of water has gone under the bridge, but nothing much has changed.
Yeah, it's just a different circumstance, but the same issues. So yes. Yeah, and same with me with my bag. I'm still having bag issues. I just don't know what to do. Yeah, whenever things get a little too crazy in the news, I focus back on my lack of bags.
Well, now let's leave on a very happy note because Connor, who occasionally is an occasional contributor to Mirador television, is just on the cusp of going to work for the Marines. He's still working for NHK. Just bring us up to date with him. What's he been up to?
Yeah, we're waiting to hear. The Navy is also very interested in him as well. So he's right now preparing for a concert at Carnegie Hall. He's singing with the Oratorio Society of New York. They're singing Handel's Messiah on December 18th. So he's preparing for that. He came home last night from a late rehearsal. So it's going to be grueling because his commute back is about 2 hours. So yeah, it's tough, but he's a dedicated musician. So
that's great. I mean, he's a man of many parts, and one would expect him to be, being your son.
Yeah.
But it is. I mean, in many ways, we treat him as the boy next door, and that's why we're so interested in what he does and what he can achieve. So, are you saying that the Navy are trying to zump him and not stop him from joining the Marines?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny to watch. It really is, because they need pilots. They really need pilots. So, the Marines need pilots, the Navy needs pilots. So it's funny to watch them scrambling.
And how about NHK? How's that doing?
Oh, it's going along. He's doing very well. So,
what was he covering this week? Do you know?
The mayor, hemming and hawing about the migrant crisis and about the investigation into his campaign. It's just such a mess. Just such a mess.
Everything is a mess. Yeah.
Oh, such a mess.
Fertile ground for a journalist.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Now, when do you leave for these shores, Melissa?
I leave on the 28th.
Oh, right. Okay. So you'll be here. You coming to Lewis?
Yes, I will come visit.
Oh, good. Well, I want to introduce you to our new pub here, because it's a very old pub as well, and a nice pub. I think you'll enjoy it.
Very good. I'm looking forward to it.
You're going to have to broadcast back home while you're here.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so you'll be there. You'll be there next week. We've got a couple of weeks with you yet.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. See you then.
Bye, Keith. Have a great week.
Bye, Melissa.
Bye-bye.
Well, there we are, Melissa Conti in New York, and his son Connor being fought over by the two air forces. They have several air forces in the United States. One for the Marines, one for the Navy, one for the Air Force, and so on. So he's got the choice of two. He's working for NHK, which is the equivalent of the BBC in Japan, and singing at Carnegie Hall tonight. Goodness gracious me, you can't ask for much more than that, can you? In fact, that makes me very thirsty. I think it's time for me to go for a pint. Michael, have you got the pint ready?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Andrea is there. She's getting the pint ready. I'm sorry, my boy. I go for beauty. Okay, everyone. We'll see you. Let's see. Today is Friday, isn't it? We'll see you next week. So, the familiar refrain: "Toodle, toodle, toodle, pip." If I can find a thing to play us out. Oh dear. Yes, it's all over the place, but nonetheless, we won't worry too much about that. We'll. Here we go. Here we go. Ta-ra.
From Lewis, in the Black Horse Pub.